You're welcome to another advice section. Actually, I'm surprised that I would have to do another one on relationships and how they're going to work between a foreigner and a Filipino, but they keep coming up. I guess people don't always go back and look at the older videos, and they may think that they don't apply any longer. So the letter that I got was from this is what I think the username is, Ice Tea and San. It looks like Ice Tea Sani. So let's say it's Ice Tea, and that's an easy one then. But it was only a couple of days ago, or a day ago, that this gentleman messaged me, and he said, "Hey guys, it's a nice video." He's talking about one of the videos that he's looking at, and he's putting this on the comments. So he said, "I'm still waiting for a video where you talk about the problems I will be facing living in Germany while my girlfriend is living in the Philippines as well." Weren't quite sure what the "as well" meant. But let's finish. It says, "And you giving advice to our fresh relationship. You said you wanted to talk about this, or did I miss it? Thank you. Keep it up." Well, I still think that in choosing a partner, it comes almost down to mechanical things. Of course, if you're going to choose somebody in the Philippines, then one of the things that you must be choosing is that if you'll either be coming to live in the Philippines, or you'll be staying in your home country. Now, the way that he has his username, it doesn't sound like he's German. Iced tea and a sarnie is a sandwich, but that's a northern expression, so not quite sure whether he is German or not. Of course, we have our favourite German here, and that's Alfred, and it's always of interest when we talk about Alfred for some strange reason. But anyway, iced tea. So iced tea, you're going to have to realize that there are mechanical requirements in every relationship. Now, I always recommend, and this is not my mother, it's not my sister, it's not an ex-girlfriend or an ex-wife, it's not even a friend. It's somebody whose book I read years ago and that I still recommend other people to read, and that is Are You the One for Me, by Barbara, oh gosh, what is her name? I'll remember it before the video ends. But anyway, you can find it on that title alone, Are You the One for Me? And Barbara, she actually goes into some very basic things. For instance, do you like the way that your partner looks? Do you like the way that they taste? You're going to be kissing them. Do you like the way they smell? Do you like the way that they walk around? And both with clothes and without. Do you just like the general way that you think of how your future potential partner is? And I recommend that book because she gives a lot of case histories. Barbara Angeli, gosh, my memory fails me, sorry, I'm an old fart. But she goes into some of the case histories of how relationships have failed, and what it leads me always to think about is that it's in the choosing. The success of the relationship is a great deal to do with the choice. Now, if you're planning on coming here, then you're going to have to do a lot of change, which I've always talked about, that if the foreigner comes to the Philippines, you're going to be the one who has to change and do a lot of it. So the opposite applies. If you're planning on taking your lovely lady, let me turn that sound down. If you're planning on taking her to your own country, then you're going to have to look at what are the parameters that she is going to have to live within. Now, I think that if she goes to live in your country, if he goes to live in your country, whichever one that is, they are going to be the foreigner in whatever country. And they're going to have to be the one that does the most change. So you need to look at whether you think that your partner is going to be a person who will adapt to great change. And will you adapt to great change? So after those first things, do you like the way that she looks? Do you like the way that she looks dressed? Meaning, what style is she? Do you like the way that she chooses her clothes, colours, all of those things? And do you like the way that she looks undressed? We're not going to get down into discussing the whole sex thing, but you need to be able to have pleasure that is relative to your own idea of how you look, dressed and undressed, and you need to have a pretty good idea of that. So think about that before you make the decision. Now, we're looking at now that Ice-T has already apparently made his decision and is comfortable with how all of these aspects apply. Now the thing is that they don't all have to be totally in, but they do have to be there in enough quality for you to be able to forgive the rest. And when I talk about forgiving the rest, I'm not talking about that you would be in a position of altitude. I'm talking about the fact that she or he is beautiful or handsome enough. Now, a friend, the wife of a friend, when I was in Fort Myers, and I had met in America, I never found it easy in America as a single parent and not earning a great deal of money. I was pursuing a career that I loved, but it did not pay a great deal of money. It was a matter of feast or famine. It was always a feast for what I did, because I did love what I did. And at that time, I had enough in my life of the arts to be quite happy. I was playing in a concert band on Sanibel, and it was good. Life actually was good, but I got to the point where I wanted a different kind of adventure. And maybe that our friend Ice-T is also the same, but he is looking for advice that applies to where life is in the pandemic. I call it a pandemic. What the hell? And it's affecting all of our lives. Now the main reason it's affecting a lot of lives of people who are having a long distance relationship, which is our friend, is because you can't travel. Now, I don't know, we live on Bohol, which is the province, and the province is the country life. And somewhere like Manila or any of the big cities, we just got back today from Tagbilaran. I know a lot of people are very happy with the life that they have in Tagbilaran, because they can get almost everything. honey, could you stop that from pinging? Yeah, they can get everything, and they lead the kind of life where they do want to be able to get almost everything, right? So often in the life that I lead here, we are familiar with that phrase, out of stock. And sometimes that's real, and sometimes it's not. Because if you ask the wrong salesperson and they are feeling a little bit vulnerable about their being able to speak English to a foreigner, then he might say out of stock to get himself out of a difficult situation. So you have these things to cope with. But back to our friend. So Ice-T, you're living in Germany and your girlfriend is living in the Philippines. I have to assume that she's Filipino if she's living in the Philippines. Now, she's not going to be, if it's Germany, from what my friend Alfred tells me, Germany is not an easy country to get your fiancé to join you. I think that they are now more strict, but this is only anecdotal from what I've learned from other people, that she needs to be able to speak or have at least a basic understanding of German, and maybe she gets time to do that if they allow her in. But we'll have to look at the idea of whether you can join her in, say, Bohol. Now, Bohol at the moment, I believe, is still closed. I think it's very, very close to being opened, but that will depend on you having had these jabs, let's call them jabs. You're going to have had those and prove that they are. Now that's not easy, because the way that they're saying it is that if you've had let me say, how do they put it? If you've had a test that has proved positive, then you have to wait 2 weeks. You have to be in quarantine for 2 weeks. Now let's say that you've had the jabs. If you've had the first jab and the second jab, when they finally open up Bohol, then you probably will be able to get in, but that will be very much deciding on what the situation is at the moment whenever you try to come. But let's assume that you're able to come. Now, you want to know how will you be able to live while you are in Germany and she is in the Philippines. Assuming that you have been on video call, assuming that you have exchanged a lot of information, a lot of well, just general things. What kind of movies do you like? What kind of music do you like? What kind of books do you like? What do you like to do? Do you like to go a walk in the park, or do you like to go I don't know, for a ride on a train? Whatever, all of these things, you need to be able to know the answer to them. And the success of the relationship will depend on how much research you did. Now, the easiest time is always at the beginning. How are you going to do it? There's a lot of stuff that you need to know about getting married. I'm assuming that you're going to do the right thing, or what I consider the right thing. And that is, you're going to come over and you're going to get married, or you're going to get your fiance on a fiance visa to go to your country, in which, if it's like America, then you'll have 90 days which you can get married. So assuming that you're going to do all of this, you're going to need a lot of documentation, all pertaining to yourself. If you've been married before, you need the divorce things. Now, we found this difficult because when Beth and I got to the government offices that deal with this, they wanted the whole decree nisi of my divorce. Now they wanted this, even though I had a certificate that had been issued by the court that granted my divorce, where the divorce hearing was made. I had a certificate saying that I had gone through that process and that I was legally divorced. No, that wasn't enough for them. They wanted to see the complete, I think it's 2 or 3 or maybe 4 pages of Decree Nisi. So that was a big delay. I had to get my son in Fort Myers to go to the court, and of course he had a job and he couldn't take time off whenever he wanted it. So we ended up 2 or 3 months trying to get married. But I've had letters, when I've said this before, I've had letters from subscribers who said, well, that's not true, Terence, because I only had 2 weeks vacation and I had to get married in that time, and we did it. 2 weeks later we weren't married. So it's kind of horses for courses. It will be as it is for you, in the same way that it was for me and for this other gentleman that I'm mentioning. So what else do you need to know? You need to know whether she is trustworthy. You need to know whether she has been married, which what you need to get is a Senomar. Is it a Senomar, Beth?
Yeah.
You need a Senomar. A Senomar is a government printed, granted certificate that says that there is no record of your lady having been married and that she is not presently married. Now the reason for that is that unfortunately there are women out there in the Philippines who are already married, and because it's a foreigner and they're going to be going to another country to get married, that other country will not know what the documents are, and they can bigamously get married. Either that, or they can be, sorry to say it, but they can be milking the person for money in order to be able to survive, which is a very real problem, especially at the moment. So you need to have the trust. You need to know that she is as she says. How do you know that? Well, it does get down to trust. Unless, of course, you've made a trip out here, which in your case, Ice-T, is unlikely because you asked me to talk about a fresh relationship. So if it's a fresh relationship, I would take it that you've met this person online and that you've made up your mind that this is someone that you can love and spend the rest of your life with. And we wish you every good fortune in that. Attend to all of the signals that you may be depending on between now and when that happy occasion happens. You're going to need to know that things are as they have been declared. Now, there are, by reading about this kind of thing on the experiences of other people, then you can learn a lot about the kind of, I hate to call it scam, but the kind of thing the trick that can be pulled on someone who doesn't know about how things work in the Philippines. Now, I personally know, because of Beth, just wonderful Filipina women, and I know that they would be totally honest. I'm not touting these, by the way. I'm just saying that I know that there are women who are beyond distrust. They can be trusted and believed, and they're just looking like the rest of us to have a happy life. So it's kind of like a minefield, and you have to keep your wits about you, and you have to be listening to what's said, because along the line they will follow certain kinds of things to say. So that's what you have to be listening for. There's plenty of horror stories out there, which I don't need to go into, but there's a ton of great success stories, and I get written some great success stories. So it's all down to you. But I recommend Barbara DeAngelis. Barbara DeAngelis is the lady that wrote Are You the One for Me? And in her book she talks about the long distance relationship, not specific to Filipino and foreigner, but it just makes so much sense. My own take on it is that there are certain other things that you need to know as to whether you're going to be able to settle with this person. Does she talk fast or slow? What is the speed of response when you ask her a question? Now, if it's a period of time between the question being asked and how she responds, if it's longer than you're able to stand, you may well overlook this because she is, in your eyes, a wonderful beauty, and you consider yourself very lucky to have her. But later on, believe me, you'll start to take that for granted, and then if she's one of these people who takes an eternity or won't even let you finish a sentence, it may be difficult for you to have it as part of your life. Okay, so there'll be the language. Now, personally, looking back, if I had to do it again, I would make a real concerted effort to overcome all of the blocks, the obstacles, the challenges to learning the language. Because if you don't learn the language, there's so much that you are missing on an everyday basis. Sitting down to dinner with the family, going out to breakfast, listening to any group of people who are talking, and Filipinos laugh a lot. They seem to be having a great time, and if you don't speak the language, you're not part of that. So I think that the main reason, or the main lesson that I've learned, as I wish I knew then what I know now, and that is learning the language. And I'm, in my modest, aged way, I'm actually trying now. I suggest that if you are really serious, which I gather you are, about this relationship, start learning the language, because the language holds the key to a happier life when you come here. I hope that helps.